So now we're ready to go. I have my Pro Bond glue in my Elmer's Glue All bottle. It's watered down again, just with about 1/8 of the bottle of water with Pro Bond glue. I'm using the Pro Bond cap because it has a wider nozzle and will allow me to spread the glue a little faster. I have my sand. This is the straight sifted sand that's going to be going down under the green flock, and I'm going to do 3 of the boards so you can see the process on each one. I won't do the entire table, that's just redundant. So without further ado, let's go ahead and spread our glue. I'm just using an old paintbrush, nothing fancy. You don't have to be exact on the interior, but you do need to be exact on the outside lines because it's going to match up with the other boards. So just try and hit everywhere that you've sprayed or painted a template down to make sure that they match up correctly. Not really much to talk about while I'm doing this, so I apologize for that. Okay, now before we actually put the sand down, I'm going to let the excuse me, I'm going to let the glue settle for a moment so you don't see brush strokes underneath, or so the sand doesn't dry in brush stroke patterns. It's okay to have, you know, lines and things underneath where the glue is a little thicker than in other places, but we want to let the glue settle down just a little bit so it's not, we're not pouring the sand directly on brush stroke marks. Okay, I think that's probably good enough at that point. You'll notice that I'm trying to pour the sand on in the same manner or same direction, and I'm just kind of flipping it on instead of pouring it all on at one time. Hopefully that will give it a little more variation in its drying pattern. Most of it will be covered with flock anyway, if not all of it, so this is a little more important whenever you're doing the browns and the blacks, something that's not going to be covered up. Okay, now we want to go across the edge and make sure that there's no sand sticking over the side. Alright, that's good. So we're going to let this sit for a couple of minutes, let the glue really soak in, then we'll turn the board up and dump it, and we'll be good with this. I'm going to go ahead and knock out the other greens that you see on the board, and I'll come back once all that's done and the sand's been knocked off. Alright, we are finished with this step. Our sifted sand has been glued down. I've given it time to dry. It's very solid at this point. So what we're going to do now is take our second mix, which is sifted sand and equal parts of regular yard sand and kitty litter. We're going to mix that together, and we'll be putting it on all the areas that don't already have sand. Also, at this point, you can take foam rocks or some of these pea gravel rocks and place those in areas around the base if you want to look like pieces may have been chipped off. Pretty much the same thing as when we did the hill pieces, the larger 2-inch hill pieces that will sit around the top edge. And I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will come back once that is completed and show you the final result. And I'm back. As you can see, I have finished putting our mix around all of the areas that weren't covered with the basic sifted sand, and I've also added the kitty litter base and a few detailed larger rocks around the base of the hill. So at this point, the only thing left to do is to go back with our scenic cement and seal the entire board, and this one will be done and ready for painting.